already have tears in my eyes. I already have tears in my eyes and I haven't started. Okay. Hey guys, so today's video is going to be a little bit different, as you can tell by the title. If you're new to my channel, my name is Brianna and I have a beautiful 8-month-old, almost 9-month-old baby boy named Blaze. But our first baby, we actually miscarried. We had a miscarriage. And that baby would have been born, their due date was July 22nd, 2018. So this should be going up on July 22nd, 2019 in honor of what would have been their first birthday. So I'm going to try and make it through this video without crying, but I have wanted to do a video for a long time about this. I think it's important for me to have it on video, the whole story, so I can look back and you know, show Blaze and any other kids that we have one day. Also, I have met so many amazing people and connected with their stories because of being open about my miscarriage. I just know that connecting with others and telling your story is such a huge part of healing. It was for me, at least. So there is hope, and I believe that God is good and that my rainbow baby is proof of that, and I know that I will get to hold my baby again one day. So before I start crying, let's get into the story. So in September of 2017, my husband and I kind of started talking about having kids and what that would look like. And we had decided that in January of 2018, it would be a new year, we would go off birth control and just see what happened. We didn't want to start out really like trying and like sticking to a schedule and like all that kind of stuff. Like we just wanted to see if it could happen just by not trying to prevent it, if that was possible. We just didn't want to be stressed. Naturally, about a month later in October, I was dead set, like, let's go ahead and start trying. Let's go off birth control. So we talked about it and he still was like very adamant about just waiting until January. And then lo and behold, one day we're watching Baby Driver and he pauses the movie and looks at me and goes, I think you should just not get your birth control refilled. I was like, what? And to this day, we still don't know what it was in that movie, what scene, what happened. Don't know, but that's just where he decided we should not get birth control refilled, and so we didn't. So fast forward to November, and I am just on high alert and just wanting to be pregnant so bad. I start taking pregnancy tests like a week before my period is even supposed to start, way too early, and I keep getting negative test after negative test. And finally, I just give up. I'm like, okay, I'm not pregnant. I was just so sad about it. And I ended up being late for my period. But since I had been on birth control for years, that took that away. I didn't really know what to expect. So I just didn't think much about it. And it was supposed to happen on a Sunday, and that Monday, like a day and a half later, it was Monday night, so kind of 2 days, I get home from work. Nick is out of town for a business trip, and it just kind of all hits me. I'm like, oh yeah, it's like almost 2 days at this point. Like, what is happening? And so I text my friend Kelsey, who had just told me the month before that she was pregnant. And I told her what was going on, and I was like, but I have already taken like 4 pregnancy tests and they've all been negative. And she was like, you're taking them way too early. Like, you're late now, go take a test. I have like one first response test left, and I go and take it. And I remember sitting there as I'm waiting, and I'm like literally praying, God, just please don't let me be disappointed. I know I'm not pregnant. Like, help me to just, you know, stay focused and stay positive and just not be mad at you. And time was up, and I look at the test, and there were 2 lines, and I immediately fell to the ground and just started crying. I was so happy, and my mind was racing. Like, I could not even I couldn't even tell you what I thought, but all I know is 30 minutes later, after I had gathered myself enough, I went to Walmart and bought 2 more packs of pregnancy tests. I think I ended up taking like 2 or 3 more that night. The next day, I went and bought stuff to tell Nick, which was so cool, but also so hard because I had to wait a full 24 hours. And I had been texting my friend Kelsey and my friend Allie about everything until I took the test. And I'd always told Nick that I was going to tell him first when I was pregnant. And so they're like texting me like, hey, what did the test say? Like, are you pregnant? What's up? And I just had to ghost them. So of course they knew, but it was like super funny and it was super hard. I couldn't tell anybody. And so the next night when Nick got home, I had a surprise like box waiting for him to tell him. It was the happiest I had ever seen him. I was so happy, and it was just great. It was blissful, it was perfect, and it was perfect timing. It was right before Thanksgiving. We were going to see Nick's side of the family, both of his sets of like grandparents and aunts and uncles. And then for Christmas, we're going to get my family, because we were doing Christmas with my family, we were going to get them presents that announced it. And then for the day after Christmas, we were going to Europe to see Nick's brother, who lives overseas, and we never get to see him. So we were going to tell him and my sister-in-law, and it was going to be amazing. I grew up knowing about miscarriages. My mom had 2 miscarriages. I just knew about that. But the second that I got pregnant, I can honestly say like that never even entered my mind. And I think now part of it was because like I had never heard of a miscarriage. So in my mind, if I had a miscarriage, like I would know it. Like I would know that I was losing the baby. My body would like let me know. But that is not what happened. So, you know, I get confirmed that I'm pregnant at the doctor. I have an appointment for just a regular exam, not an ultrasound, with a midwife. And then everything was fine. And at 9 weeks, we went in for our first ultrasound. And by this point, we had already told Nick's whole side of the family. It was amazing. Like, I was having morning sickness, and you know, just I was pregnant. We went in for the 9-week ultrasound, and Nick and I both left from work, so we drove separately. And we got there, and I had to do the glucose drink, and they were going to draw my blood afterwards. We go in and we see the tech, and immediately we see on the screen, when they do the ultrasound, we see our baby. And I didn't know what I was looking for, but it was a baby. Like, it was very clearly a baby. And I lit up, and I was like, is that our baby? And he was like, I think so, which is such a weird answer, but I still don't think I thought anything yet. I was just so excited, like it was there. And I knew that they would be looking for the heartbeat. I thought we would see something like that would chart it, but I didn't know that we were supposed to hear it. So the tech is looking and looking, and me and Nick are just smiling at each other, so happy. And then the tech starts asking me questions, and he's, are you sure of your last period date? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, have you had any pain or bleeding? And I was like, no. And when he asked that, I knew something was wrong. And then he said, are you supposed to see a doctor after this today? And I was like, I mean, I don't know. I'm supposed to get my blood drawn for the glucose. And he was like, okay, I'll be right back. And he leaves the room, and he doesn't say anything. And he leaves, and Nick's just still smiling, and I just looked at Nick, and I was like, something's wrong. And he was like, no, I don't think anything is wrong. And I was like, no, something's wrong. And so a nurse comes in, and she's like, okay, honey, we're gonna go to a different room. And I was like, is something wrong? And she was like, I can't say anything. They take us to a room, and I just start sobbing. So we waited for 45 minutes, and I can honestly say it was the longest 45 minutes of my entire life. Like, I went through 23 hours of labor with my son, and 45 minutes in that room. I just look like I'm crying. I can't, there's no way around it. I'm sorry. The doctor comes in, and it's a doctor I've never seen. And he comes in and he just says, so your baby's not alive anymore. It was, but it's not, it doesn't have a heartbeat. So we can send you home with something to speed up the process. I'm sorry, what? You're gonna send me home with something? What do you mean? And so we're trying to ask questions, and finally Nick is like, can you go check? Like, can you go do an ultrasound? And he says, no, our tech is really good, and he looked for a long time. And so he was like, we can send you home with something. I was like, I'm not taking anything. And he was like, okay, well, you'll have to come back in like a week and do a scan, whatever. We knew like we were never going back to that doctor ever again. The sucky part was we had to drive home separately because we drove there from work, and that car ride and that 45 minutes in the doctor's office were two of the lowest moments of my entire life. Like the most pain I've ever felt. And we got home, and I text my small group, and I text my friend Kelsey and Allie, and Nick called his parents, and I couldn't tell my parents because they didn't even know I was pregnant because we were waiting for Christmas. And I was telling my friend Kelsey, who's a PA, and I was telling her like everything that had kind of happened, and she was just like, man, that doesn't even like sound right. Like, the doctor didn't come back in and do an ultrasound on you? Like, he just let the tech? And I was like, yeah. And then somebody else was like, they didn't draw your blood? Like, they should have drawn your blood to check your HCG levels. Like, have you come back in 2 days and monitor them? And I was like, no, they didn't do anything. It was literally one ultrasound, and that was it. And so everyone we talked to were like, you need to get a second opinion. And so that was a Friday, by the way. I think I forgot to mention that. That was a Friday. And so we had to wait an entire weekend, and we mourned and grieved and wallowed, and we prayed and prayed and cried and prayed. And we had so much hope. We were like, I think this might be, like, it's just a mistake. Like, it's just a mistake. He was just wrong. He was an idiot. He was a jerk. Like, whatever. So we find someone that our crappy insurance would take, and I call on Monday, right when they open, and I like beg the lady to let me get in, and she does. And so Nick is asleep, and it's before I go to work, and my appointment was going to be that afternoon, and I sat in our living room just praying, and that whole weekend I had so much hope and just was trying to make myself feel better because it was too much pain. And I remember praying and there being a point where in my heart, it was this overwhelming, like, you've got to give him to me. And I was like, okay, God, like, I give this baby to you. Like, this baby's yours. And I give this baby to you. And, like, in my heart, like, right then, it was like I knew that we had lost the baby. But I felt God, like, tell me, like, I had to give that baby. And I knew I had to let go. And I did, and, like, I knew, and I still, like, had that hope. But, like, in my heart, I knew. And so we went into the doctor, and he did a transvaginal ultrasound, which, by the way, backing up with the first ultrasound, the guy just did my stomach. Like, when he couldn't find a heartbeat, he didn't do it transvaginally or anything like that. So this doctor did it transvaginally, and he couldn't find a heartbeat. And so then he sent us to the hospital and said, okay, they're gonna go check and you'll get back to me. So we went to the hospital to, like, the radiology is where you do an ultrasound, and they did transvaginally and on top of your belly, and it took, I mean, like, at least probably about an hour-ish. Like, they were super detailed, and they couldn't find a heartbeat. So we went back in, like, the next day for consultation, and our doctor was like, okay, because I told him like what had happened with the other doctor, and he was like, you are so far along, I would never send you home with medicine to pass this on your own. So he explained my options, and he said that a D&C was the route, but he said you don't have to do anything right now. And we were so thankful for that, because we just weren't ready. I couldn't do anything without knowing 110 million% that my baby was gone. And it was hard because it was like my body wouldn't let go. And so we were supposed to go to Europe at this point, like in less than a week. And he examined me, and he was like, everything looks intact, like I think you'll be fine, but if you start to miscarry, go to the emergency room, like they can do a D&C anywhere. So we went, and 2 weeks later we went back to the doctor, and he was like, so what happened in Europe? I was like, nothing. And he was like, wait, nothing at all? Like no bleeding, no cramping, no anything? I was like, no. Like I was still full pregnancy symptoms too. So he did another ultrasound, which we were super thankful for again, and the baby had shrunk. And at that point we scheduled a D&C, and I remember being prepped for that, and I was in like the pre-op room, and everyone was so sweet, and the anesthesiologist came in and like told me he was so sorry for my loss, and he grabbed my hand and was just like, I'm so sorry, and we're gonna take good care of you today. And everyone was just so sweet. I just remember crying so much because I had to fill out this paperwork. The paperwork was like mother's name, father's name, and it just hit me when I was filling that out, like, I'm a mom. You just don't think that you'll fill out that kind of paperwork as like mother, who's the mother, who's the father, and not be taking a baby home. I'm so thankful for who I am, because I was able to be a part of their life for just like a tiny amount of time. After we had our D&C, it took like 6-ish weeks for my body to like realize I wasn't pregnant, or that's at least how my doctor explained it to me. And when I went in for my checkup, he was like, once you get your next cycle, you guys can start for a baby right away. We ended up just pretty much doing the same thing as we did with our first baby, and we're just like, okay, let's just not prevent. And lo and behold, a month later, we found out that we were pregnant with our miracle rainbow baby, Blaze. So there is hope for a successful pregnancy after a miscarriage. There's hope for healing, and the hurt never goes away. It just isn't as easily at the surface, and it isn't as raw. But I love being open about my pain and about my experience, because I just feel like when you can connect with someone about their story, like it makes people feel like they're not alone. And I felt like I was on an island. I felt like something was wrong with me. I remember apologizing to Nick over and over and over again and saying, I'm sorry I lost your baby. Even though it clearly wasn't my fault, it felt like my body failed me. It felt like my body failed my husband and my baby. But it didn't. It didn't. It wasn't my fault. And I don't know, if I can help give someone hope for a successful pregnancy afterwards, and a beautiful life afterwards, and not because you have forgotten what you went through or your baby, because trust me, I have not. I got a tattoo honoring my baby. It's the letter, see, it's the letter J with a heart, because we did end up naming that baby, even though we didn't know the gender. We just felt like it was something that we wanted to do to help us heal. So I very much have not forgotten. We think about that baby all the time. Like we talk about that baby all the time, and we still live our lives to the fullest. So you can have both. You can have a beautiful life without you know, feeling that hurt 24/7 and without letting it wreck you. And I don't know, there's just hope. So if you have gone through miscarriage and are watching this, then I would love to hear from you, because I think connecting with moms who have gone through similar things is just such a beautiful way to, I don't know, just not be alone in this. So, and if you're a friend or family member that is watching this, thank you for watching. I know it can be awkward and hard when it's someone that you know and it's a painful story. So that's it. That's all I have. That's the story of our beautiful angel baby that I love so much. Happy birthday, little angel. I'll see you one day. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.